Time now for the Daily Answer, sponsored by Salem Surround on The Answer Now TV.
We are still going over this information that came out yesterday. It was released by Chairman Grassley of the Senate Oversight Committee, as well as by the FBI, who gave the document to Senator Grassley and then also simultaneously released it. This comes at a time where we know the FBI is looking at a lot of the activity under the previous leadership of the FBI, under Christopher Wray, as well as what the Department of Justice was doing with special counsels and things of that nature when it comes to politically motivated investigations and who they were going after. And the saddest part about this is that none of these things are shocking in the way that they should be. They're shocking because it should never happen in America. But you sit there and go, well, of course they were doing this. Of course they were getting the phone records of sitting senators, because their respect for the rule of law did not exist. And we saw that with every policy of the Biden administration, whether it be the border or the way they handled free speech rights when it comes to people protesting abortion and standing up for life, or if it came to the protections of the Constitution for sitting U.S. senators, including the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who has oversight of the very department that was investigating him. So let's go ahead and listen to what Senator Graham had to say, because Attorney General Pam Bondi today is before the Senate, a normally scheduled hearing where the oversight of Congress takes place and the Attorney General answers to activities that they've been under. But Senator Graham ties this also with the Comey indictment because of all the outrage on the left saying, how dare you go after James Comey and indict him when he broke the law. But let's go ahead and play bite 7 for folks. That was this morning, just an hour or so ago, when he is questioning Attorney General Bondi.
Why are we looking at Comey? Because he ran an FBI and personally knew about its exculpatory information and let it slide. How in the can 2 FBI agents interview a man who says the document you're using against a sitting president to suggest he may be a Russian agent or Carter Page that is now no longer reliable? How does that not get to the court? Can you tell me how that doesn't get to the court? You can't, can you?
I can't, Senator, and I can't.
Can you tell me why my phone records, when I'm the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, were sought by the Jack Smith agents? Why did they ask to know who I called and what I was doing from January 4th to the 7th? Can you tell me that?
No, Senator, and there were 8 senators in total.
Yeah. Do you think that was an abuse of power?
Senator, I cannot discuss whether there is or is not an ongoing investigation. If I may add one thing, they also wasted $50 million on what you just described, trying to put President Trump in jail prior to the election.
So right there, we hear someone very upset, rightfully so, Senator Graham, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, at the time that all this went down, asking the current Attorney General about this situation. And I think we should list the other senators as well. This is Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Bill Hagerty from Tennessee, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri. We have Tommy Tuberville, Senator from Alabama, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, Senator Cynthia Lummis from Wyoming, Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. We have the Congressman Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania, and then we have Dan Sullivan, the senator from Alaska, as well on this list. So across the United States, 8 senators, most of them very conservative. Some you probably actually you don't hear a lot about, like Dan Sullivan or Cynthia Lummis aren't the ones that you're always seeing in the headlines. But Jordan, clearly the senators are not pleased with what they're found out.
No. And from their perspective, I know we were going back and forth because on the document of whether or not this was a warrant issued by a judge, was it issued by a grand jury that a judge would just kind of oversee? And the senators in their statement, the senators who were targeted, do believe it was from a grand jury. That it was from one of the grand juries, I guess the D.C. grand jury that was impaneled, likely by Jack Smith, so that he went to the grand jury to then ask to be able to go to the telephone companies to get this information on these senators. But as you heard from Pam Bondi, of course, as an attorney general, as a part of the Department of Justice, she can't confirm or deny if there's investigations ongoing. I can't imagine if you were a betting person that an investigation is not ongoing. It might have just started very soon, just recently, because to my knowledge, this was unknown.
Right.
No one was talking about, hey, this might come out. Even people who usually have access to this kind of information were saying, yeah, I think they were also spying on a group of senators as well. I mean, maybe some people said that in generically, but honestly, if you were going to then give me the list of those senators, this is not the list I would have expected.
Right.
I mean, a couple of these names on here are some of the louder voices. Some of the names on here are not. And as my dad said, the idea is this was going to be about whether or not they voted to certify an election, which they are elected by their constituents to cast that vote on. And what does Jack Smith have to do? What does that have to do with January 6th? What does that have to do with the Jack Smith investigation? What does that have to do with any potential illegal conduct? And it doesn't. It's protected so many different ways in the Constitution. And it should just, again, it's something that should never happen in the United States. It's harder and harder for law enforcement to get away with. Maybe it's easier for them at the time because the data is more accessible. You go to the grand jury, you can grab the data easier. But long term, it's hard to bury this because these documents, because of the partisan nature of our political system, is you come to light and people realize, whoa, the previous FBI was spying on me. And they were spying on senators who happened to vote different ways, by the way,
right,
on certifications. It's not like this group of 8 senators voted exactly the same on certification. In fact, they didn't.
Well, and Jordan, what's going to be even more absurd is the data they got would tell them who they talked to, where they were, and the length of their phone calls.
Yeah.
So just that in and of itself, it's not like they're going to all of a sudden discover that these senators were talking to like a drug cartel, right? You know, like that, oh, we have this nexus between a criminal element. The reality is they were probably talking to their colleagues and the president of the United States. So all of a sudden
they wanted to talk to as not only elected officials, but as United States citizens who have done nothing wrong.
Right. And so that in and of itself, the presupposition by the special counsel and the FBI here was that this data, being able to show that they talked to their colleagues or to the president or things of that nature, would help us prove a case against either Donald Trump or even maybe those senators themselves if they were the target of an investigation. That's where it gets so absurd and why this can never happen again, because that is already so authoritarian. And I know that that word likes to get thrown around, but when you're using law enforcement in the United States and a special counsel at that, with unlimited budget, nominal oversight at that point, being able to go after sitting senators and things of that years after this event, ahead of a new election, it's shocking because that is the only goal can be trying to silence or get someone out of office or put them in jail. Those are the 3 options that the special counsel was targeting.
Yeah, I mean, they have to have some kind of reasoning that they put forward to that grand jury about why they needed this information in the investigation of, in their mind, what was criminal conduct. Now, we believe the whole thing was bogus, but they had to at least have something bogus to put forward.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel. Stay informed anytime, anywhere with the Salem News Channel and 9:30 a.m. TheAnswer.com. This has been The Daily Answer, sponsored by Salem Surround on The Answer Now TV.